Developing news now. Former rap mogul Suge Knight is headed to prison for voluntary manslaughter. He ran down a man in the parking lot of a Compton burger stand about 3 years ago, and today he found out what his punishment's going to be.
For the crime, which the defendant has been convicted in count 1, the defendant is levied a term in state prison of 22 years. The prior conviction, the defendant has admitted he's levied an additional 5 years in state prison for a total unstayed term of 28 years.
Quite a fall for Knight since the height of his career in the 90s. He's best known as the co-founder of Death Row Records and worked with Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur. And back here live, Sharon, he did look briefly at...
Suge Knight's sentencing for 28 years signaled the end of his power, the end of his empire. People now no longer as intimidated since Suge's incarceration started talking more freely about Suge being the shadow behind Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur's murders.
Yeah, tell Frankie to call me. Frankie, you call me when she tells you to call me Frankie. Frankie goes to Hollywood. Hey, yo, Frankie. Frankie. Yo, Frankie. What are you recording?
It caused me to review an earlier film I'd made about Biggie and Tupac. People were now opening up to things I couldn't get answered before. Biggie and Tupac started off as the best of friends. Tupac was the one who discovered Biggie and brought him out on stage. And if you look very closely, you'll see the rarest of footage of Biggie and Tupac hugging on the edge of stage. But partly because of Suge's influence, they ended up as deadly enemies, the victims of a gang war that Suge had initiated. It was LAPD detective Russell Poole who originally alleged the connection between Suge Knight and the murders of Biggie and Tupac.
Well, like I say, based on the witnesses that I've interviewed and the evidence, I believe that, Suge Knight ultimately called for the hit.
And you said Police Chief Bernard Parks stopped you from investigating further because LAPD police officers were involved with Suge Knight.
Well, that's correct, yes. He was, it's several factors on why he didn't want this pursued to the fullest extent, and one being the fact that his own officers were involved.
At the time, Police Chief Bernard Parks dismissed these allegations.
He is totally wrong. He only worked the task force for about 4 months.
Russell Poole resigned, asserting massive corruption in the LAPD.
Tonight's shocking allegations against the city's top cop. Former Detective Russell Poole has filed suit against the department. Poole says he uncovered dirty cops while investigating the murders of rappers Biggie Smalls and Tupac Shakur.
I provided the chief with enough...
Russell died tragically a few years later, his career in tatters, the murders still unsolved. His work asserting dirty cops and corruption in the LAPD is as relevant today as it was then.
They were gangbangers, and they worked for Suge Knight. So they was like Suge Knight's boys. So I believe, my belief of it is they did what Suge told them to do, because they was broke. They couldn't get a job because they was already marked as gangbangers. So they took that ride with Suge Knight, and they accepted that $1,000. That $1,000 for a person that never have, for a person that don't have $1,000 is good a day. $1,000 a day to do some dirty shit to the next motherfucker, or go over here and drop this car, or go over here and drop this bag off, and you don't know what's in the bag, but 9 out of 10, you know what's in the bag. Because you're not gonna fuck with nobody. You're not gonna put yourself in a situation where you don't know if it's a dead body in a trunk or not. Some people do. Some motherfuckers don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Because they be so desperate for this money.
Inflicting pain on people was like my medicine. I felt good. I truly felt good about it. I took pleasure into it. Okay, I mean, just seeing the blood, how it came out your nose, how it came out your ears. You don't want to die. You don't want to die. These cats don't give a fuck if they do die. And I mean that like that. I'm not putting them on nothing, but these cats don't care. You know what I'm saying? We lose homies in prison. We lose homies on the street, on the daily. We done seen death. We done seen it. I held it. You know what I'm saying? I watched my homeboy Kenny Tells take his last breath. Like, wow.
Put your hands together and say, oh yeah! Let me see somebody get Dre, Suge, and DOC a round of applause. Death Row Records is going to be the record company of the 2000s.
Death Row had the money to throw the most lavish celebrity parties in Beverly Hills.
Oh, yes.
The label started with Dr. Dre, who was going to do his own thing, and with a lot of help from Suge Knight.
David Kenner, seen here, and Suge Knight ran Death Row. According to employees, they did whatever they wanted.
Beverly Brothers, front center.
He had huge houses, he had lots of cars. He could come to work every day in a different car for a month and never drive the same car. Really? To be honest, Suge was just two-faced. He was two-faced, and he really wasn't a man of his word. And I'm telling you, that day that he set me up to be beat up, I never thought, I had no inkling that that was going to happen that day. He had planned that whole thing all weekend. He was ready. He had one of his girlfriends bring the girl up to the office. They snuck her through the back door. The girl that jumped on me, she was dropped off by a girl that was one of his girlfriends. This girl came out of nowhere and she soccer punched me, stomping me in my face. And Suge had me by my feet. And David Kenner just stood and watched.
And what did Suge say?
He was holding my feet. So then when I kicked him in his nuts, that's when I got familiar with the back door. So when I ran out the back door and I ran over the Interscope, they must have knew something was happening because they locked the door. So you couldn't go in.
You know, they treated women, I mean, they would have fights in there, with girl fights in the offices, where they would put the assistants against other women, and they like literal girl fights where they would open up, like in the middle of the floor, where they would, like it was like boxing matches where women would fight. And I never saw the fights. They would just tell me about them. Dre told me about them, and I was just like, who does that in the offices of the whatever? And so that's how little they thought of women. And so I just never understood it. They just thought women were second-class citizens. They were just literally there for their amusement, entertainment, and enjoyment. Nothing else. And if you dated one of them, you understood that was your place.
This is Rosecrans and Atlantic. I believe this is still Compton. Looks like more than likely they were shot while trying to fill up their car with gas.
Suge Knight, struggling to maintain control, created a rivalry between his own blood gang members who started killing each other.
A lot of them died for him, including my brother. Some guys got out of van and AK'd him down. I think he got shot 9 times, 10 times, and he was laying there. I've seen the scene so many times. I've seen what happened to him so many times. You know, I can say I can't even imagine that somebody would do him like that, but that's how we was living. That's the shit we was doing when we was doing drive-bys. That's the shit that I lived for, that I had to go out and live like that. So seeing my brother, it was so different. It was like I had to step outside of myself and to see him laying there with his eyes open and just, I had so much anger in me. It's rough talking about him. Every time they mention his name, I get choked up. The pain is It's a cold feeling. It's my brother.
But I guess in a way his death gave you something. His death gave you something too.
It taught me a lot. It gave me a better understanding of my self-destruction, what I was doing to other people. I'm with somebody right now that they feeling the same way about their brother. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I can't do nothing but apologize for the way I lived. And I'm trying to make it better. I'm trying to help people.